Nejad to Al-Muallim, Iran stands by Syria against the conspiracy until right overcomes injustice. The Syrian Arab armed forces destroy bases of mercenaries in Aleppo and liberate hostages in Damascus and Dar'a's countrysides. And more protests in Saudi and demonstrations in Riyadh and Jeddah, while the Bahrainis continue to fight the Saudi occupation of their country. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is the news in English from the Syrian Arab television in Damascus. The Iranian President Ahmadi Nejad received the Syrian Foreign Minister Walid al-Muallim in Tehran. Nejad asserted that Iran remains a fraternal country standing with Syria against the conspiracy until right overcomes injustice. President Nejad expressed confidence that Syria would achieve victory through the wisdom of the leader Bashar al-Assad and the people's support for him. On his part, Mr. al-Muallim affirmed Syria's determination to foil the plot and to combat the armed terrorists who commit criminal acts of killing civilians and attacking public and private property. These terrorists are supported by Western and Arab countries which supply them with money and weapons. Al-Muallim also met with Mr. Saeed Jalili, Secretary of the Higher Council of National Security, and Ali Larijani, Speaker of the Shura Council. He briefed them on the current situation in Syria and stressed the necessity of continuing consultation and coordination between the two countries. Al-Muallim expressed confidence that Syria would emerge victorious because of the unity of its people and their solid stand with their leadership. Our armed forces continue to chase the terrorist mercenaries in Aleppo and inflict heavy casualties among them. In spite of the campaigns of lies and suspicious TV channels, the Saladin quarter kicked out the terrorist.
Aleppo is a steadfast castle facing and foiling the terrorists. Our armed forces kicked out the mercenaries and inflicted heavy casualties among them in the quarter of Saladin. Our forces continued the process of purging the place and kicking out the terrorists. Among the dead terrorists were Ahmad al-Janoudi, Muhammad Abd al-Salam Salloum, Ali al-Hussein Abu Hussein, and Muhammad al-Sa'id, in addition to other terrorists from various Arab nationalities. In Al-Hamadaniya, close to Salah ad-Din, the security forces killed a number of armed terrorists who frightened citizens with crimes of murder and sabotage. The security forces also confronted an armed gang that tried to storm the building of the party group in the Aleppo countryside, inflicting heavy casualties among them.
Security forces continue to carry out operations in areas that suffered from terrorist crimes of armed groups. A unit of our armed forces was received in Spain and welcomed by the people there after it responded to their calls to consolidate security and defeat the terrorists who burned public and private properties and sabotaged the infrastructure.
The situation here was really bad. We couldn't walk in the streets. I have left my home and I couldn't be back till yesterday. Thank God the Syrian army came and now we feel safe.
The terrorists were in the neighborhood terrorizing people. Thanks God, it's better now after the Syrian army came.
The armed terrorists were here shooting and killing innocent people.
The Syrian army protected the citizen here and made them feel safe. We are proud of them.
The tragedy of kidnapped citizens in a Shifoniya in Damascus countrysides ends after an operation by the Syrian Arab armed forces.
As I was going to buy bread and return to the hospital last Thursday, a terrorist gang kidnapped me under the threat of arms. They took me blindfolded in my car to an unknown destination. They beat me and tortured me. When they knew that I was a doctor, they stopped beating me for a time. It seems that they wanted me to treat their wounded and then to kill me. I was going to work in the municipality. A group of armed terrorists stormed its building, blindfolded me and took me to an unknown destination. We arrived in a farm after an hour. They beat me and tortured me, breaking a number of my ribs and causing full paralysis of my right hand.
The border guards on Saturday foiled an infiltration attempt by terrorist groups which tried to cross to the Kalakh area in Syria from Lebanon. A source at the province said that the terrorist group tried several times to infiltrate to Syria from the areas of Al-Mathoumi and Al-Shahira. The source added that the authorities foiled the attempts and forced terrorists to flee back to Lebanon. Border Guards forces foiled an attempt by a terrorist group to infiltrate into Syria from Jordanian territories through Tel Sihab in Deir countryside. An official source said that a clash with the terrorists inflicted casualties among them, while the rest escaped into Jordan. The British Sunday Telegraph newspaper revealed that the accounts of Islamist militants fighting against the Syrian state in the northern region included people from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Chechnya, with some of them speaking English.
The Sunday Telegraph reported in an article published on Saturday that the British Foreign Office is investigating reports that British citizens are around Islamic fighters who kidnapped a British photographer and his Dutch colleague in northern Syria. It quoted a source close to the incident as saying that British John Cantley and Dutchman Jerian Ormans were held by Islamist fighters for a week after they accidentally came across their camp while crossing the border from southeast Turkey to report on the events taking place in Syria. While they were held in captivity, the source added that the journalists were threatened with death unless they converted to Islam, before another group of the so-called Free Syrian Army militias turned up the camp and demanded that they should be released. The source told the Sunday Telegraph that the camp members included people from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Chechnya, with no Syrians present, adding that around 40% of them apparently spoke English, but it wasn't clear what nationalities they were. The source noted that there were at least 6 men with British-sounding voices, including one with a heavy South London accent.
The voices of demonstrators rise daily against the Saud family and Al Khalifas. The uprising of the Hijaz extends to the capital Ryiadh. In Bahrain, there are black rooms to torture the detainees. The opposition launches a campaign to expose the immoral practices against citizens there. More about that in the following.
Al Saud and Al Khalifa have failed to stop the popular uprising. The voices of demonstrators rise louder every day, calling for freedom and democracy in Nejad and Al Hijaz. The protests are extending from the eastern region, which is witnessing a strong uprising in spite of suppression. A demonstration of cars in the streets of Riyadh called for releasing the detainees in the eastern region, where poverty prevails, although the region is floating on a sea of oil. The oil is stolen by the princes of Al Saud, who turned the region into a closed military zone without electricity. Wounded people are receiving treatment in hospitals. All means of communication are cut off, preventing the voices of demonstrators from reaching the world. Al-Bahrain is under Saudi bullets and poisonous gas. Houses in all the cities of Bahrain are being stormed and people are savagely detained. The wounded are arrested in hospitals. The British daily newspaper The Times described how a Bahraini police officer tortured prisoners in secret sites described as black spots.
The armed forces of the Wahhabi Saudi regime continue to suppress popular protests in Al-Qatif. They wounded 18 people with bullets and poisoned gas. The demonstrators were calling for justice and equality.
For 18 months, events never stopped in Nejad, Al-Hijaz and the eastern area, where men and women demonstrate calling for justice and getting rid of the injustice of the Saudi ruling family. The strongest protests continue to take place in Al-Qatif since the detention of Sheikh Numr al-Numr. The director of the area of southern Jazan asserted that the Wahhabi Saudi regime detained more than 21,000 citizens in 1 month under false pretexts. The Saudi regime has turned Najd and Al-Hijaz into private property and forced the country to serve the projects of the West and to implement the Israeli plot of the so-called New Middle East. The Arabs should realize the danger of the Wahhabi extremism hiding in the darkness of backwardness, supported by some GCC regimes, such as the Qatari regime headed by Al Thani family.
The atmosphere of Ramadan and its familiar rituals have become popular. And to avoid being too thirsty in the summer, some drinks like the Indian dates and licorice would become particularly useful.
In the holy month of Ramadan, many popular food and drinks become essential on the table of Al-Iftar. And the special drinks of Ramadan have many advantages as they give energy for the body, facilitate digestion, and clear the intestine, as well as many other multiple medical benefits.
The familiar drink in Ramadan are al-jallab, the Indian dates, and lemon. This becomes a habit in Ramadan. We are used to it since our grandparents, and we grew up with this tradition. We are more interested in them in Ramadan, but they are delicious all over the year, as long as we are healthy and good.
I feel that those drinks are special for Ramadan. As a custom, Ramadan can't go without Indian dates, apricot, juice, jallab and others. It is a habit in addition to their benefits.
I drink lemons, orange juice in addition to licorice because it helps digesting. It's good for the stomach.
The markets are full of special drinks for Ramadan, as many sellers become creative in preparing them to meet the needs of the citizens.
And with this, we conclude our news bulletin for today. For more news about Syria and the region, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. But now stay with us. After the